Welcome to Chapter 6, Section 7, Part A. Our objective in Part A is to learn to find and use simple interest. So our essential question, how do I compute simple interest? Key terms, interest, simple interest, principal, and rate of interest. Interest alone is the amount of money charged for borrowing or using money. When you deposit money into a savings account, you are paid interest. Simple interest is one type of fee paid for the use of money. So interest is a more general term. Simple interest is a specific kind of interest paid. The equation for simple interest is I equals PRT or IPERT. I standing for the simple interest or the money paid on the principal. P is the principal, the amount of money borrowed or invested. R is the rate of interest or the percentage charged or earned. T is the time in years that the money is borrowed or invested. This is important information, the equation and what each of the letters stands for, to get into your notes. Let's check it out. To buy a laptop computer, Elaine borrowed $2,000 for 3 years at an annual simple interest rate of 5%. How much interest will she pay if she pays the entire loan off at the end of the 3rd year? What is the total amount that she will repay? So let's think about the things in the problem that are important. $2,000 was borrowed for 3 years at a 5% annual simple interest rate. Now the question we're being asked, how much interest will she pay if she pays the entire loan off at the end of the 3rd year? And a second question, what is the total amount she'll repay? So this is 2 parts. So I like to think about what we know and the fact that there are 2 questions we have to answer. Using IPERT, it's nice to break it down one letter at a time to figure out what information we know and don't know. So if we go back, before we write the equation out, I is the interest, which is what we're looking for. We don't know that. P is the principal, which is the amount of money you're starting with, either borrowing or investing. In this case, she's borrowing $2,000. Our rate is 5%, but when we put this into an equation, we need to turn it back to decimal form, which means we divide it by 100. T, the time is in years, so we're borrowing this money for 3 years. The what, we're looking for the interest and the total. What I equals and what the total equals. So here's our equation when we plug those numbers in. I equals 2,000 times 0.05 times 3. Multiply that all together, you get the interest to be $300. So the answer to part 1 is $300. To get the total, we need to add the principal amount, which was the amount of money borrowed, plus the $300 of interest. So principal plus interest, and we get a total of $2,300. So the 300 represents just the interest. The $2,300 is the total amount of money that Elaine would have to pay after 3 years for the laptop computer. Let's try another one. TJ invested $4,000 in a bond at a yearly rate of 2%. He earned $200 in interest. How long was the money invested? Remember our equation, IPERT, and let's think about the information that we know. TJ invested $4,000. $4,000 would be the principal amount. His yearly rate was 2%. Divide that by 100, that's 0.02. He earned $200 in interest. So I would be $200. So far we've used these 3 pieces of information. The question asks, how long was the money invested? So we're looking for the amount of time. And remember, time is in years. So let's plug in the information we know. I is 200, P is 4,000, R is 2/100ths, and T is T. So we multiply 4,000 times 0.02 to get 80. So now we have 200 equals 80T. Remember your algebra steps. To get t by itself, we need to divide by 80. Just to show where that came from, we divided by 80 to cancel it out. Divided by 80 and we get 2.5, and because we're talking about time, we know that that's 2.5 years. We could also say that's 2 years and 6 months. Mr. Johnson borrowed $8,000 for 4 years to make home improvements. If he repaid a total of $10,320, at what interest rate did he borrow the money? This one looks a little different. Let's see what we have. Mr. Johnson borrowed $8,000, that's the principal, for 4 years to make home improvements. He had a total of $10,320 that he owed. So this is the principal, this is the time, this is the total, and at what interest rate did he borrow the money? So we are looking for R. So I is not known right now because we have the total and we have the principal, but we don't have the interest. So let's fill in the principal and let's figure out how we might get that interest amount. Well, if this was how much Mr. Johnson had to pay, and he knew that he borrowed $8,000 initially, the interest would be the difference. So subtract those, and the interest was $2,320. We don't know the rate, and we know that this was for 4 years. We are looking now for the rate. And remember, that's going to need to be a percentage. So we took our subtraction to get the interest. And now we're going to put that in the equation. Let me clean some of this up. So I equals P times R times T would be 2,320 equals 8,000 times R times 4. Remember, multiplication means everything can go together, so we can rearrange this and multiply 8,000 times 4 to get 32,000. To get R by itself, we divide by 32,000 on both sides. The 32,000s cross each other off. We simplify this down, and we get 0.0725. However, we would like that as a percentage, so we multiply by 100, and that's 7.25%. We could also write that as 7 1/4, but that's less likely to look that way. John's parents deposited $1,000 into a savings account as a college fund when he was born. How much will John have in this account after 18 years at a yearly simple interest rate of 3.25%? Deposited $1,000. We're looking for how much will he have at the end? 18 years and 3.25%. So let's see where we're at. We don't know interest. We know the principal is 1,000. We know the rate is 3.25, which would be 0.0325. Don't forget that 0. And this is going to go in his account for 18 years. So we are looking for the total. In order to find the total, though, we need to have the principal plus the interest. So let's plug these numbers in. I equals 1,000 times 0.0325 times 18. I equals $585. So there's our interest. Add the interest to the principal of $1,000, and after 18 years, John will have $1,585 in his account. That's the end. Make sure you have the equation down. Make sure you have at least a couple examples to show you the different methods you may use. You may solve for different pieces of it. Please come up with some questions on the left-hand side. That would be good teacher questions or quiz questions. Review your notes, highlight, underline, chunk them, and complete the summary before class.